Welcome to Clicks and Coffee. I'm Alexander, and here we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs and marketing innovators. Each episode, we uncover the challenges, triumph, and unique strategies of our amazing guests, giving you valuable insights and inspiration. Our goal is to build a community of growth-oriented professionals ready to learn, collaborate, and thrive in the ever-evolving world of digital marketing. So whether you're here for the latest trends or looking for that next big idea, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. And today we've got Sebastian Hooker, the co-founder of Nimstrata, joining us. The name is mysterious, but it will help you look behind the curtain of Google search algorithm and optimize your Shopify store to deliver the best search results and collection pages to your customers, which will increase your conversion rates and top line revenue. Sebastian, thanks for being here.
Alex, thanks for having me.
All right, so we made quite an intro, so we're gonna have to dig a little deep into what Nimstrata can do for people, because one of the biggest issues that we all have, including me, is rising ad cost. And when I look at my P&L from last year and the year before, I'm like, what is happening? And so I'm very, very excited to learn about Nimstrata. But before we do that, I would like to hear about your career journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. So my career journey really started in web design and primarily UX. While UX was becoming kind of a new term, there was kind of this coalition of job titles that came together between graphic designers and web designers and front-end teams to kind of like create these UX roles back in the early 2010s. And that's really when I was starting my career and bouncing around between, do I want to do graphic design? Do I want to learn to code? Do I want to focus on marketing or communications or anything else? And I really gravitated towards the design element of websites. So started there. And then my first, really, I would call it adult job, was with a company called PC Name Tag. And they were recently acquired by Avery Products. They make a lot of folders and labels, big paper company. Yep. Bought this name tag company in the Midwest. So I relocated to Madison, Wisconsin. And I was starting as a UX designer, but quickly kind of moved into this e-commerce manager role. And it changed my vision of okay, we're not just designing something pretty. We have to show top line revenue to account for these pretty designs. We have to make sure that these designs are not just, kind of falling on my plate and returning as something, someone wants to see and says, oh, that looks nice. But how are we A/B testing? How are we making sure we're increasing conversion rates? And this was all pretty new still. So I became responsible for the online business, which did give or take about 10 million annually at the time. And I was there for about 3 years. And my GM of the company, who was kind of airdropped in from Avery to that location, told me I should go get my MBA. So I went back to grad school, did my MBA at New York University, moved to New York, stayed there for a few years.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, it was a really fun time. And I decided to pivot kind of from this CPG world into big tech. So after grad school, I worked at Microsoft for a couple of years as a cloud solution architect. However, I was working more with big banks. So helping, Bank of New York Mellon at the time move to Microsoft Azure. And I was just really getting this deep end of this tech part of my brain that I was kind of meaning to scratch this whole time and pivoting from this design and e-commerce world into cloud. And then COVID hit. And during the pandemic, there was a massive increase in cloud computing needs from all the hyperscalers. Everyone was going remote. Data centers were moving to the cloud faster than ever. And Google called and a recruiter said, do you want to come work over here? So I went through the interview process at Google and had this this moment when I was choosing the team I was going to be on. It was a team matching situation. And they said, we originally recruited you for financial services because that's what you're doing at Microsoft, but we also have an opening on a retail team. And I thought, that sounds a little bit more fun. When I look at Google and I look at banks and, kind of the ability to innovate in financial services is very slow because it's filled with regulation. And then on the retail side, I was seeing a lot more experimentation, willingness to play with some of these big data tools, and AI was just becoming a thing. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to move into this retail patch because frankly, the competition's easier. Most retailers are not going to put their infrastructure on AWS if they think Amazon might be competing with them. So it's really between Azure and Google Cloud as the cloud providers. So that was a story coming from Microsoft. I felt like I could tell well. So I moved over to Google and worked on a retail patch. So that's kind of how my journey into Google started. And the kind of pivot into my own startup here was while I was working on these enterprise accounts, there was one product that really made people excited. A lot of cloud is commoditized, right? It's like we can have a VM anywhere, we can have a database anywhere. But what can Google do that no other cloud can do? And they had a product, and at the time it was called Discovery AI. It was also renamed a few times. It's currently called Vertex AI Search for Retail. But what the product is it's essentially Google.com search algorithm tied up in a Google Cloud product that can power e-commerce product discovery experiences. So that means you can import, I know it's a lot, you can import your product catalog, this API, and you can import what are called user events. So think of like Google Analytics. Someone searches for a product, they click on that product, they purchase that product. All of those events are training an AI model on your product catalog so that when a customer goes to a website and searches for maybe a blue shirt, the results can then be delivered by Google search algorithms. And all that's packaged up in this API that's powered by Google Cloud. And I thought, this is really cool. So some of Google's earliest customers to use this were like Nordstrom and Macy's, and they were seeing like great results on conversion rates. And what ended up kind of happening is Google would charge upwards of $1 million to implement this. These are very complex APIs. They're very powerful, and you're literally buying Google.com search algorithm and putting it on an e-commerce store. And then the market started to expand with what were called Google Cloud partners. And these partners would do it for about $300,000 to $500,000. So you could meet with a partner, get it for half the cost, and they would implement it for you. And I thought, what if this was just software based? If you were on a major e-commerce platform like Shopify, why do you need to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to a firm to implement this? So I quit my job in July of 2023 to start Nimstrata. And our first product is a Shopify app that connects Shopify stores directly to these Google AI search algorithms.
Okay,
That's a
that is
lot.
gonna
That
be
is the career history.
yeah, no, that's super exciting. So and so your co-founder. So how did you find your who is the team and who is the team and who are the other people on the Nimstrata team for now?
Yeah, so we're three co-founders in terms of the people who came together to make this happen. The first one, I started it with my buddy Jason, and he's based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And our first project together was actually back in like 2012, 2013. We've been working together for a little over 10 years on kind of entrepreneurial ventures. And the word Nimstrata comes from, I know you said it was a mysterious name. The word comes from nimbostratus, which is a type of cloud. And those clouds are actually responsible for snow. And we met in Utah and we did a lot of skiing together. And we originally started as a cloud consulting company. So we thought, okay, type of cloud, what's a domain name that's available? And my wife actually helped us come up with the name Nimstrata. And then, from there, we pivoted very quickly from kind of like all-inclusive cloud consulting. We know cloud, but we really narrowed down to focus on this Shopify market and this Google Vertex AI product. And then our third co-founder, his name is James, and he is based in England, actually. So we really do span the time zones. And he's my cousin. So I originally called him up and said, hey, Jason and I are starting a company. I think we're going to need some contractors if you're still doing contracting work. I told him the vision, and he decided to quit his job and join us full time instead.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So before, we ask too many personal questions, I would really want to dig into this because, I'm on the two sides of the fence as being the CEO of Pentelope and the CEO of All Security Equipment, which is an e-commerce store on Shopify.
Yep.
And everybody is seeing just increase. So, the increasing cost, ROAS is not as good as it is. We'll always try to do the maximum, but it's slowly creeping down,
Yep.
And, one of the reasons we know is just that e-commerce is becoming more popular, we all hope that with AI and search engines and everything, that the price will go down because they're going to be a little bit more pressure on Google.
Right.
However, Google is Google, and there is so much you can do about it.
Sure.
Even though Yahoo was saying the same thing when Google arrived, but that's another story. And I don't know if you remember, there was another search system that was called Alta Vista, which was the one that I used to use. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. But yeah, so the biggest problem that we're seeing in e-commerce is the rising cost and the complexity as well. So for example, at All Security Equipment, we manage about 35,000 SKUs, and we use Feedonomics. Luckily, we're on the enterprise plan, which we have a dedicated person. And even with using that like drastically improved our visibility, how the products are presented, promotion, and everything. But we're still seeing ad cost creeping. Creeping. So tell us a little bit about maybe you have already a company that you had like tremendous success and you want to share, or walk us through on how does it work with whatever you're okay with divulging, but tell us really how it works on your platform, and technically who would be a great client, kind of the whole story of like who are the good clients, how does it work, and how quickly can we implement that?
Yeah, all great questions. So I'll kind of start with some case studies. So yes, we've had several customers who have seen outsized success here. And the primary metric that we're looking at is either revenue per visitor or conversion rate. And the reason we look at these metrics are, to your point, like ad spend being very expensive. So there's kind of this whole journey that a user goes through before they even land on your website, right? And that comes with a lot of the work you've done in SEO. Maybe you have great product descriptions, you have collection pages that you've spent time optimizing. You're really trying to be perceived as a trustworthy expert vendor in a space. And all of that kind of organic traffic comes to your site. You also have these product listings, maybe on Google Merchant Center, that are feeding in Google Shopping. Maybe you do very targeted ads. Maybe you're using PMAX campaigns, or you're saying, that's a scam. I'm actually going to go back and do it the old-fashioned way. But either way, you are spending a lot of time and effort getting people to your site. And it's amazing that a best-in-class conversion rate when it comes to e-commerce is still in that like 2% range. So if you have a conversion rate where for every 100 people that come to your site, you've spent all this effort getting 100 people there, and only 2 of them are willing to buy, if you can increase that conversion rate number, all of that uphill kind of expensive traffic you've worked on becomes more efficient, because by the time these customers are actually landing on your site, they're more likely to buy. And how do you make them more likely to buy? You help them find exactly what they're looking for. And we call that product discovery. That's kind of the industry term. And product discovery is a combination of the search bar on your site that helps people get to the right product they're looking for. It's also the collection pages. So if they click, a brand or a category on your site, seeing the items in the correct order that they're most likely to buy on, along with the filters on the left side of the page in the correct order, showing the correct filters to help people land on a specific product. This is all like leading to that chance of a higher conversion rate. And then like the final piece is when they're on a product detail page or a cart page, recommending products that they might want either instead or as cross or upsell opportunities. So you kind of combine this findability with this browsability with these recommendations. And when you put all that together, you can get meaningful increases in your conversion rates and your revenue per visitor. So that's essentially like kind of the end state of what we're offering, right? It's really this all-inclusive product discovery experience. And there are existing apps out there in the Shopify space that aim to do this. Like, we are not the first one. We might be the more recent ones, but we're certainly not the first. So I think you're probably familiar with like Boost Commerce. I think that's probably on All Security Equipment today. So one of our first case studies was taking out Boost Commerce, and we increased revenue per visitor by almost 40%. And that was absolutely bonkers. And the reason we were able to do that is because this customer had over 500,000 SKUs. So when you have that much complexity in your catalog, like search matters. And we see that threshold of, you were kind of asking, what would a good customer look like? We see that threshold start at about 1,000 SKUs. If you have over 1,000 SKUs in a catalog and you have over, say, 50,000 visitors a month, you will get so much power out of machine learning and AI helping you do merchandising than trying to go at it alone or with a more traditional or legacy tool. If you only have like 5 SKUs, maybe you sell phone cases, like everything's like very predictable, like you don't need AI. Like you don't need that kind of merchandising power. But yeah, when you are dealing with more complex catalogs with a lot of traffic, you can kind of let the AI focus on the dark corners of your website that humans are unlikely to get to. Like you might care a lot about your sale page, you might care a lot about your home page and maybe your most popular collection pages, and you've put a lot of thought into merchandising those well. Well, there's probably 70% of your site that also have this opportunity to be merchandised that humans just don't have time to do. And that's really where Google kind of steps in and does that for you. So I think our kind of like our competitive advantage, I would call it, or kind of like open secret, is that we're not competing with Google on the AI. We're actually putting Google's AI on your website, and Google's AI is competing with Boost. They're competing with Fast Simon, Algolia, all of these big enterprise product discovery tools. We are the enabler. We are the only solution that connects Shopify directly to Vertex AI Search for Retail, and we've actually partnered with Google on this. So if you go to Google's website, like you'll see us as a trusted partner to implement this, because this is the only solution for Shopify that has that direct connection.
And we all know what happens when you work with Google tools on Google search results.
Yeah.
But one of the craziest thing that I've noticed in the past year is Reddit. I've been on Reddit for years,
Yeah.
and it was okay, but it was never always at the top. But now every time you search something,
Yeah.
it's like a Reddit post. So
Yes.
I don't know what happened between Google and Reddit, but when Google says like, hey, we're going to help you,
Yeah.
Usually you see a big
They reward ecosystem participants, right? They like, certainly. Yeah.
So that is really, really exciting. I'm like super excited because I know at All Security Premium, and we have a couple of also clients at Pentelope that we're always trying to figure out how to improve ROI, how to improve ROAS, how to improve the conversion rate, like you said.
Yeah.
So I have another question for you. Can you walk us through on like somebody using Nimstrata on their website? How will that affect? So first of all, like, how long does it take to kind of work?
Sure.
Because you have to index the website, and then from there, how what do you see the results, and then how does it work when you are a multi-marketplace? Like you have multiple channels. How does it work when you sell on Amazon, when you sell on eBay, Home Depot, whatever? How do you improve, I would say, your conversion rate on your own website? Because everybody knows that when you are selling on Amazon and your website, even if you have like a 1-for-1 offer, meaning free 2-day shipping, same price, people would tend to side with Amazon just for the simplicity and like also familiarity with the purchase experience, because it's not even about the product anymore. In some cases, it's really about like the purchase experience, and kind of reminds me of fast food chains or coffee chain that people will visit a city and like go to Starbucks because they know they go to Chicago, they go to Fort Lauderdale, they go to whichever city in the middle of the US, they go to Starbucks, and it's always going to be the same. So there is no surprise. But if you're trying things, you don't really know. So that's always the issue that we see with Amazon. And so I'm interested to see, how does that work? And then how do you improve that visibility?
Yeah, so to answer your first question in terms of implementation time, we have this down to kind of an art and a science. We can do it as quickly as a day. Usually, customers have some requests around exactly how they want their search results to look. So we'll spend a couple weeks with them getting that just right. Especially if they're planning on testing it against existing solutions. We like to make sure we have the most unbiased A/B test possible, so that you're fully comparing the relevance quality from Google's AI versus the relevance quality from maybe a legacy or existing tool. Outside of that, like the getting your catalog data into Google Cloud, that's kind of our whole business. So we're very good at doing that quickly. And then returning the results on the storefront is where we offer some like prepackaged options for that, or we can do what's called theme matching and say, okay, here's your theme. You've spent a lot of time and money customizing. Let's go ahead and match it up for that, so that the experience is familiar after you adopt this new tool. In terms of like time to value, we kind of joke that the first day this is on your site, it's the worst it's ever going to be. And that's because Google is just returning results in what's called relevance mode. So what you're seeing here is the Google Cloud Console for this search for retail product. And along the top, there are these different tiers. So there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. And day one, when we were kind of talking about how long does it take to see results here, on day one, it's the worst it's ever going to be, because it's just in relevance mode. And what needs to happen is users need to actually use your site. They need to use the search bar. They need to make some purchases, because that's what trains Google to understand which products to surface. So once you get through that kind of training period, you move into what's called relevance and popularity mode, which is the second tier. And you can track your progress by clicking this details button on the right side. This is a demo environment, so we'll never actually get real traffic. But on our production customers, you see this little blue line grow and grow and grow until it crosses that critical threshold, and then crosses the blocking threshold, and then it crosses the critical threshold, and you move into these next tiers. And then as you move into these tiers and search on a website, you get better results. And that just continues until the results become revenue optimized. And then finally, if you send user data, this can actually become personalized. So if a user signs into a site and then makes a search, it is unique to them. Similar to how if you or I open up Instagram on our phone, we have different feeds based on who we follow and how we interact with the app. So Google does the same thing here. And then it's very similar on the recommendations front. So if I click models and just click one of these recommendations models, you can choose your business objectives. So like click-through rate, conversion rate, revenue per session. And then these requirements go from this black X to a green check mark when you actually have people shopping on your site. So after a week of adding to a cart or 60 days of page views, you can train a model that uses Google's machine learning to deliver recommendations that optimize for conversion rate on the front end. And that's just the data quality piece. There's a lot here, like this conversation component that we can chat about too. There's a lot coming in this space. It's moving very quickly.
Oof, that's pretty crazy. And so the great thing is, like, instead of using Google Analytics and the clicks and that to kind of feed back into the ads, here we're really indexing every product and what people are searching, and helping and really helping customizing like a Facebook feed or like a Instagram feed with the products on your website. Exactly. To these people when they are searching. So they might even like try to search for, I don't know, something, but it might offer. So I have another question. So
sure,
let's take a perfect example. On all security equipment, for example, we have everything that is security related. So we would have exactly. So we have intercom system, gate motors, but we also have like fire safety and stuff like that. So let's say somebody goes and buys something in fire safety, and then the next time he's looking for so how would it work to kind of improve that search results? Or like, what exactly would you see? For example, one of the things that we sell the most is that motor that you see on the right. One of the things that I would like to sell more, for example, is the cables. How will your system kind of improve the results on that?
Yeah, so it really depends on the amount of traffic that comes to your site to determine like how quickly these AI models can kind of tailor results for personalized buyers. In terms of purchase history, all that's collected as part of these user events. So at our core, of course, we're ingesting your product catalog into Google Cloud, but the second piece are these events. And again, this is a demo catalog, so there's not going to be a lot of events here. But when you see like searches and eventually purchases kind of come through here as well, and let me see if I can just pull up an anonymous.
And that all of those results are going to be based per user, basically.
Exactly. We use a visitor ID, and we can also pull in a user ID as well.
And so that's going to help on the display. Is that going to, is it only on the search, or is it going to be on all of the types of search that Google offers?
So this is going to be all on your website. This is only going to be on allsecurityequipment.com. This doesn't feed back into your ad spend today. This is once a customer is on the site, we're trying to convert them and help them find what they need. In terms of the Google Shopping piece, that is a separate API run by the ads team, not the cloud team.
Okay.
Yeah. So as users,
so it's really for the it's really for the website itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So as users make these purchases, so this is more of a, this is, an anonymous, like real customer account here where you can see, 70,000 purchases come through. And this data is what can go back and feed, to your point, like what other collections might they be interested? If you have a lot of customers coming and buying fire safety equipment and then buying gate equipment, the following week, well, now the models can be trained to return that gate equipment as a recommendation to other users purchasing fire equipment. It can use kind of a combination of personalized data, but also site-wide data to train the model. So this is a catalog with an example that has enough data to actually come through and train one of these recommendations models, or for something like you might have a frequently bought together in this case.
So it's basically using Google search algorithm on your website.
Exactly.
So that way, a lot of companies are doing that, but Google is Google, so I'm sure they have a little bit more resource than most other companies. So it's basically having a search. Right now, we're using a company called Search Spring. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yep.
And it's a pretty cool system. But having Google behind, and also the good thing is that it's kind of helping you match what you showcase online and what you showcase on your website.
Yeah. So exactly, it does replace Search Spring in this case. And we just took out Search Spring in another account just based on performance. Google is still kind of the king at search.
No, that is really fascinating. And so can you walk us through, I don't know, which use case we can dig a little bit in without, revealing who it is, but do you have like a recent project that you thought that would be a good one and then it turns out to be a really exciting one?
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to show off some of our public case studies. So have you, do you know Cotopaxi? They sell outdoor gear. You might see their colorful fanny pack.
Very well. I like the brand. I just don't know if I see myself wearing that many colors together. I mean,
yeah, they're a really fun brand. Also based out of Utah. So one issue that they had before is quite a lot of searches came back with no results found. It can be hard, with a brand that is so creative in the way they do naming. So like the Deltia product line and the way that their products are multicolored, and the way they sell like these fanny packs or hip packs, like everyone has a slightly different name for this product right here, this hip pack. Some people call it a fanny pack. Some people call it like a purse. And actually like replacing the search on Cotopaxi's website, this is all powered by Vertex AI Search for Retail now through Google Cloud. This reduced the number of no results found queries like dramatically. You can actually find, kind of what you're looking for with the Cotopaxi catalog, because this is what's using what's called Google's knowledge graph. You get all the benefit of how people search on google.com. So that idea of like, do we have to create a synonym for fanny pack, for hip pack, for purse? Or does Google's understanding of the word fanny pack translate to what Cotopaxi needs it to? So this is a benefit. This is like using all of Google's, kind of history and decades in search and their understanding of what's called user intent as part of their knowledge graph and putting that on your site without needing to create manual rules. So that's what you're seeing on the site here is Google's understanding of these terms.
So it's basically having a subdomain. Kind
of, yeah.
It's like Cotopaxi.google.com, but when people get on Cotopaxi, they use the Google search for their website, which of course, Google being the king of search, it sounds like a very natural segue to increasing the business.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. And so for sure, for a company like All Security Equipment, that could be great because people, use different names for operator. So the technical
Exactly.
term is gate operator. A lot of people say opener, people say motor, gate motor. So it would be interesting to see what so like now you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry. I mean, I
No,
can't
no.
help
Please,
it.
please, please. I don't
So,
care. It's great. I'm super excited to talk about it.
so what would be awesome is to run an import, just a very simple import to Google, and then what you can do in the console is test the results without even putting it on your website. So see this in the console tab, this evaluate piece. I could just type in like a shirt, or I could type in a gate operator, and you can see the results that would come back on your website if you kind of put the front end components on.
And what do you do? What do you do if there is something that's wrong?
So there you typically do what's called a control. So maybe you mentioned you want to sell more cables, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we would do is maybe create a control called like boost cables. And then we would apply this to searches, and we would create what's called a boost or a bury control. And then maybe the searches that you want to trigger this on are like fire equipment, where anytime someone is searching for fire equipment or anything that kind of matches that, you want to push cables. So you would hit continue here, and we would have a condition where we would say product type is cables or whatever it is in your catalog. And we would say, let's boost those a little bit.
Mm.
And now the results, every time someone searches for fire equipment, cables are going to be boosted just a little bit. You're not going to totally throw off what they're expecting to see when they search for fire equipment, but you will be able to kind of push these products you're trying to sell more into those results based on those queries. And then the second thing, this is coming out in January, Google's releasing what's called pinned products. So if every time someone searches for a gate operator, you want to pin that best-selling product in the first position, you can do that as well. So these kind of like merchandising rules that kind of like take the human component and put it back into the flow are all things you can do inside the console here. And Google's constantly making it easier to do this. I think the caveat is if you create a serving control, you should test it, because the product manager at Google, his name's Noah. He's a great dude. He hasn't actually seen a human beat the AI yet. So oftentimes these human merchandising rules don't actually sell more product. They just make people feel better. They make the CEO feel better if they're like, every time I look this up, the wrong results coming up. Okay, well, we'll change that. But when you actually test the human merchandising rules to Google's AI still outsells it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. No. It's fascinating. And then I have another question also, because a big, you know that on every e-commerce website, one of the big thing is speed, optimization for speed, because people say that you're losing I don't know how many % of sales by having a website that loads like half a second slow, which is like mind-boggling when you think about it. But people are getting more accustomed to incredible optimized websites, and so every time we want to add something to the website, we're always careful with how is this going to affect the load time, and we even have optimization to choose which item loads first on the page to make sure that the UX is as optimized as possible. And that was a big thing when we integrated Search Spring, was that speed, So I imagine that with Google search, it's like even crazier.
Yeah. So I'll break it down into two components for you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is actual infrastructure. So infrastructure being where Google servers are, where Shopify servers are, and where our equipment sits to get those systems to talk to each other. All of that is co-hosted in Google Cloud. So Shopify is fully hosted on Google Cloud. They're one of Google's larger accounts. It all runs a lot of Kubernetes, and like a lot of load balancing takes place. But when someone goes to your security website, they're actually hitting a Google Cloud data center. Google search algorithms also hosted in the same data centers, right? So it's already co-located just by nature of the way what's called Borg. It's Google's like main compute system under the hood. How that's set up, you never leave the Google backbone when you're performing a search. So when someone comes into your site and searches for a gate operator or a gate motor, we are taking that request and we are sending it to Google's retail API inside of the same Google Cloud data center that Shopify sits on. And then we're returning it back to your front end. And we have to do some data transformation with Shopify, but we are getting it, like we've co-located it as tightly together as possible to reduce that load time. And then the front end components, do everything like that you would consider best in class from a UX perspective. We don't load images. We don't have to. We don't load attributes. We don't have to. We are very good at caching without affecting the AI, because if you cache your search results, well, you just totally destroyed the benefit of AI and personalization. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing some caching if you're maybe searching for the same thing twice from the same IP address. So we're very clever about how we return results in an efficient way to not explode like any kind of bill or reduce speed. That's kind of the first thing. And then the second thing I want to mention that we see a lot of other search apps missing is accessibility. So a lot of these search apps, come onto your site and throw their kind of like app blocks in place, and maybe they're quick, maybe not. But by the time you've kind of optimized them for speed, it's not possible to use them very easily with like a screen reader. So you definitely need to think about not just the speed, but the accessibility of your search results. And oftentimes, like, they're not 100% compatible. People feel like removing elements that are actually required for screen readers and vice versa. So what we do is we aim to optimize our infrastructure to be co-located with Google and Shopify, and our front end components to be as fast as possible, but also in a way that keeps like every user having an optimal experience without putting a store owner at risk of creating an experience that either slows down their site or becomes unusable by a certain audience.
I don't know how much you've rehearsed your everything about the company, but I'm hypnotized by what you're telling me. It's like everything sounds like it's normal. Makes sense.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time working on this.
Nobody has done it. No, it's super exciting. And so, another thing in e-commerce is now everything has to be cards on the table right off the bat. So I'm gonna ask you to put cards on the table on the pricing. So everything sounds amazing, but how much does it cost?
Yeah. So let me show you a couple of pages on our site. The first thing we have is a pricing calculator, or just like our pricing plans with a calculator down below. We have a floor of $99 a month. And the reason we do this is because kind of that good fit store, like if you have under 1,000 SKUs, you do not need our tools. If you have a very small Shopify store, $99 should like be too much for you to spend on an app. And we intentionally gatekeep our app to users who are willing to spend at least $99. This is likely going to move up to $149 in the future. From there, we usually create custom plans for anyone who kind of sits between one of our plans. And the reason we do that is because we do it based on what's called your serving volume and your catalog size. So if you have 35,000 SKUs, you're going to be higher than our $99 a month plan. This goes up to 5,000, but we won't bump you up to our growth plan with 150,000. We have custom plans that sit in between there. And the reason we charge by catalog size and serving volume is that's how much infrastructure we have to maintain to keep your catalog synced in real time. So to kind of explain all of this, we actually have a link here where it says our approach to pricing. Our goal is to just be fully transparent with our users. So if you click the Learn More button here, we explain why we're priced the way we're priced, exactly why our pricing is what it is, and how it scales. So if you add more SKUs, how much are you going to pay? If you have a ton of traffic, how much are you going to pay? And what that does is it tells you a little bit more about like why we've priced our platform to keep our margins healthy enough to scale. And this means that if you get flooded with a bunch of traffic on Black Friday, we can spin up the infrastructure to handle that. Or if you add 1 million SKUs to your catalog, we can spin up the infrastructure to keep that synced in real time. So our pricing really scales in those two dimensions, the size of your catalog and the amount of traffic coming through. The second component of our pricing is that we are just the connectivity tool. You still pay your Google Cloud bill because we're unlocking Google for you. The same way if you have a Google Ads connector, you still have to pay for your Google Ads, even if you have Feedonomics connecting your Shopify store to an ads account, right? So we position ourselves as this connector between Shopify and Google Cloud, and then we're a small part of your bill, and then you pay Google Cloud by usage, and we can help you estimate that bill. But really, it's all public. It's $2.50 per 1,000 API calls, and then we're 50 cents on top of that. So long story short, you have these two components. We are very transparent about how we've priced our component. Google has a pricing calculator to see how to use theirs. And we don't do any annual contracts. Like the results are either great and you keep it or you turn it off. So we don't try and say like, oh, you need to use this for at least 12 months or it's going to take this long. We say you are going to get so much value out of this and this price is going to be so effective and the ROI on extra sales will pay for itself, or you uninstall it. We don't want unhappy customers. Like we only want customers who are willing to pay for us.
Okay, so cards on the table. No, that's pretty cool. No, so I'm really super excited. We for sure need to talk after this podcast for actually us and another couple of clients that I think would be great to talk to as well. But yeah, no, it's really cool. It's very, very cool. And I love the fact that you're able to, instead of trying to come with your own, AI, your own search, you're like clearly like, oh, let's just use Google. Why not?
We just bring you the best one instead, right? We're the connectivity experts. We're not the AI experts.
Yeah.
And that's
we spent billions of dollars, developing our AI. Well, Google.
Exactly.
Google, they spend that much. We're just, using it. This is super cool. This is super cool. No, I'm very, very excited. And so, one of the quick thing that I want to go, because we kind of took a bit the whole time, but one of the questions I love to ask is, what are you excited about in the world of digital marketing, and what are you worried about?
Okay, great questions. I'll stop sharing my screen for this one. Excited about in the world of digital marketing. Let's start with the fear, because I think the excitement can be a fix to the fear. But I think we're becoming too reliant on AI in certain ways. Like I think we expect it to be this like catch-all solution where we see maybe like blog posts being written by AI now, because you have these digital marketers who have spent all of this money in the past doing keyword research, figuring out what 10 blog posts to write to drive traffic to the gate openers category on your site. And we've seen like really good content come out of the last like 10 years, getting people to optimize for Google. And then the AI wave came and people said, well, wait a minute, we might not need a graphic designer anymore. Or, hey, ChatGPT wrote this copy pretty well. Like maybe we don't need a copywriter here. And you're seeing people take these traditional ranking mechanisms to get traffic, like doing SEO projects and trying to feed that entire workflow into AI to like cut costs and to move faster. And you see it on the brand front, you see it with agencies, you see it with tech partners. Everyone's just trying to create this like almost like AI produced content. And I think it's reducing the quality of what's online. When I like get to an article that's clearly written by AI, it's very obvious to me. And, I think it's a great tool to brainstorm. I think it's good for editing and I think it should be used as part of the workflow. But if I open one more blog post that's like, here's why search is critical to creating the best customer experience, you're just like, okay, like if you use the word critical in the first sentence, like I know you're ChatGPT or crucial, right? Like it's almost like a trope now. So I think like,
how people have their habits of how they write. AI has the same thing too,
AI
which is
has
like
a habit.
And then I know in the email, I don't remember what is that sentence that he always starts the email
my goodness,
with that.
The cold email where it's just like, great work connecting Google to Shopify, Sebastian. Like, I'm just like, you don't know what we do.
Yeah, no, not only this, but there is always like one sentence, I don't remember what it is, but at one point it was like ChatGPT was doing that same sentence every time. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and you kind of start to see these patterns, right? And I think that the issue is I'm immediately tuning it out. I get to a site where I'm like, this is not going to actually offer any value. It's going to go surface level. I need the expert level content before making a decision like this. So in the digital marketing field, like I'm most nervous about like kind of the downfall of the internet continuing by just being kind of overwhelmed with this AI generated stuff that's really just people trying to game rankings and whatnot. And what makes me kind of excited about that is I think it will increase the it'll increase the demand for specialized experts who can actually create great content. And when you are kind of like competing in a pool of this content that is just kind of like meaningless, it will help the great content stand out even more. And I think eventually companies like Google and OpenAI and Perplexity, like all of these different like companies that make it their business value to show what you're looking for on the web, I think they're going to get better and better at filtering out AI generated content and surfacing the most usable and the best featured kind of copy that is like come together to actually be useful for users. So as nervous as I am about us like creating just like a bunch of crap, like I also think it's the cream will rise to the top and eventually we will have like content that's actually much more trustworthy because it's kind of segmented away from this AI generated stuff.
It's funny. I kind of agree with you where, everybody says, oh, with AI, SEO is dead, but long live SEO because the AI is, as you said, is going to start looking for the best content.
Right.
And then when you have, bounce rate that is like on this website, the bounce rate is like, 95%. It means like the content is not great. So you should not, focus on that and look for better content. So we're telling all our clients, like, don't worry about AI, focus on great content, great content strategy, because as you said, like the algorithm are going to get smarter by detecting the bad content and really showing only. So all the bad content will kind of become invisible. And then all the best content will stay relevant.
And I think we're in the messy middle right now, right? Like I think it will just take time to get there, but the formula is the same. It's like create good shit that people want to read. Like that's it.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is, like, I was speaking to another founder of Question Base, which is a AI assisted like knowledge based for Slack. It's pretty cool. You can look it up later, Question Base. And what she was telling me is like, I feel that in the future, so in the near future, is that human interaction guarantee or human content guarantee is going to become like a special service.
Right.
And I was like, wow, like this lady, she's already like 2 steps ahead, of, we have all this AI coming, and then, what's going to be the next, because people like the human interaction. I agree that AI is going to solve a lot of issue on like, simpler tasks and things, and I'm sure it's going to get better and better and better and better. But I feel like, humans will always like to have a real content.
I think there will be a premium on it too, right? Like the really good humans will rise to the top, and it might become a luxury good to have actual human generated content on your website or driving traffic to your brand. But I bet you the biggest and most prestigious brands in the world, like the Gucci's of the world, are going to use humans to create their content for a long time and continue to focus on the quality, not the quantity. And as soon as we get out of this kind of quantity deluge that's come online, like we should come out stronger.
Yeah. No, super cool. Well, it was like truly amazing having you on this podcast. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. It's like, it's so cool to find these people that, use the best there is and help democratizing it. Oof, that's a word.
That's our mission, man. Democratizing AI.
Yeah, making it a little bit. It's the French accent, that have a hard time. But making it, for everybody, because, we talked about like $1 million integration. And so that's really cool, because you're going to be able to help smaller brands really compete with the big boys. And that's what we all want to do. So,
and these smaller brands, man, they're the backbone like of this economy. And when we can kind of like help, these couple of people out of New Hampshire with a little corner store like sell online better. Like there's so many little stories where we get to work with the founders and the operators and like truly help them grow their business that are very satisfying. Like it's I have a lot more fun helping a small business than maybe like, Macy's, right? Like it's just more fun to me.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Super. So everybody, if you want to go, you can go to nimstrata.com. So just as we pronounce it, no weird spelling. Or you can find Sebastian on LinkedIn as well, and I'm sure he will be happy to show you how to improve your search on your website. Sebastian, thank you so much, and I wish you really all the best.
Yeah, Alex, thank you for having me.